Hey there, StarCraft fans! It's Falcon Paladin coming at ya with yet another edition of StarCraft Brood War Remastered! Today it's going to be a match between Fantasy and Pin here on Circuit Breakers. Top right-hand corner, nope, bottom right-hand corner. It is the green Protoss player, or teal. It is not alone, it is Fantasy, playing under his Smurf name. In the top left-hand corner, it is the brown Terran player, Pin. I have no idea who this is, but I cast a game between these two players, let's see, back in 2018. It was a good match, so I feel like he can hang with Fantasy here. But if you know who this is, let me know. I posed the same question back in that cast, and one person theorized that it was a player called Pinocchio who played Zerg. But, I don't know. His Wikipedia page is pretty sparse, no further information, and never said that he went by Pin, but, whatever. He's good enough to hold his own against Fantasy, who's a super-duper accomplished Protoss player. So we will see. And the last game I cast between these two players had carriers. So no promises of carriers here, because I don't watch these in advance. But I don't know, maybe you'll see them, and maybe you will not. That is why you clicked on this, right? For the chance of seeing carriers? Probably not. I don't know. I mean, if there are carriers, I'd probably put it in the thumbnail. So yeah, you probably clicked on this if there are carriers. But if there aren't, then I didn't put it in the thumbnail. And it's like Schrodinger's cat. It's Schrodinger's StarCraft match. If it has carriers, it does. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. It is simultaneously both carrier and not carrier right now. How interesting is that? A bit of a sore throat going on right now. I did go to the dentist earlier today, and I just some of that like teeth cleaning stuff I think got into my throat and it's kind of irritating it. Or, you know, maybe I'm sick. Who knows? Who knows the secrets of the human body until they reveal themselves? Speaking of which, the coronavirus is sweeping its way through the country. I was going to say the country, but it's through the entire world right now. We've got cases in every continent, I think, at this point. Let's see. Is there a continent that doesn't have it? If you count Australia as its own continent, perhaps Australia does not have it yet. But otherwise, I think we have cases in Europe, Africa, Asia, and North and South America. So that is a little concerning. I mean, obviously, the mortality rate, as far as we know at this point, is not too bad. Of course, I am casting this about a week before it posts. And so perhaps in a week, it's this global pandemic and people are dropping like flies. And I'm like, how come my YouTube video count is so low right now? It's like, oh, yes, the coronavirus is killing people. Why are you so self-centered, Falcon? That's what's going to happen. Yeah, probably not. Anyway, there's a game happening. It does very much look like, there you go, Singularity Charge coming up. That does bode for some Protoss Dragoon pressure, which, you know, that's what we see in these games anyway. One Rax expanding here is Pin, and Fantasy trying to see what's going on, just to make sure, you know, it's not like a one-base attack or anything. And at this point, the scouting has been denied. So, Fantasy doesn't know if this is a one-base attack or not. He can't see the expansion coming up. He has no idea. Pretty annoying stuff, but he's going to go ahead and send the Dragoon anyway, just in case it'll be useful. And he's going to expand. That is a Nexus, all right. Does it look a little bit off to you guys? Like it could be north a little bit? Maybe not. Maybe not. I trust Fantasy. This guy's stupid good. His early APM is insane. Obviously, over here, Pins is okay, but again, you don't need crazy amounts of APM to beat somebody who has a higher APM than you. You don't. You got to be smart. You got to be smart in StarCraft. Smarts count for more, and decision-making counts for more than how fast you can click. SCV scouting around and does say, okay, just a really standard one-gate expand into Dragoon pressure. There's probably going to be a Dragoon showing up here. It's probably going to have range sooner rather than later. So we're going to pull some SCVs down and mater transfer them down to the natural base so we can repair the bunker when the Dragoons arrive. Anyway, hit that like button if you're enjoying this game. I've noticed you've been hitting the like button. Thank you so much for that. It just helps me get more visibility, and I have noticed an uptick in views over the last month or so. Month to 6 weeks or so. It's been really nice extra views here in a time when generally my channel actually suffers in view count in January and February. So I appreciate you guys being there for me. I hope you enjoy the cast. I'm always, again, open to suggestions of how to improve. I read every comment anybody has ever made on any of my videos, which people don't believe me on, but it's true. Leave a comment on any of my videos from anywhere in the history of my channel, and I will respond to it. Promise. Or throw a heart on it, at least. So here's the Dragoon. It does have range. It is annoying, but it is by no means game-ending at all. I mean, maybe for a lower-level player, this would just be death, but Pin is not a lower level player. He's got this handled. He knows you need 1 SCV per Dragoon out you're attacking to keep the repair up on that bunker. If more Dragoons show up, you need to pull more SCVs until you get a tank out. Or perhaps Vultures with Spider Mines. You have some different options here as Terran of what you want to do. Meanwhile, oh, very sneaky Templar Archives down here from Fantasy. I like it. He's hiding it so that sensor scanner sweeps won't see it. You won't see the very fast rush to Templar Archives. Interesting. What is that going to be? You going to get Storm early? Generally, we don't really see Storm against Terran because they're going mech. I mean, it can help against mech, but man, if you show up early with Storm and the Terran player is not expecting it and you have largely Marines and like Vultures, I don't know. This is interesting. I like what Fantasy is doing here. So tank sets up, does not have siege mode, and it's not being researched either as Spider Mines are on the way and Vultures are in production. So yeah, I mean, to this point, nothing too strange has happened. This is definitely the weirdest thing going on right now. I think the Dragoons could jump on that tank. If Pin wasn't paying attention, I think they could jump on it, smash it down with a couple volleys from these 4 Dragoons. I mean, the repair on the barracks is real, and yeah, I mean, you're going to take hits from the bunker if you get close enough to kill the tank anyway. This is some interesting tank micro out of Pin. I don't think he's taken a couple hits on it, and he's done some damage too. Like, these Dragoons are somewhat injured a little bit. We got DTs. Oh, it's DTs. I never take DTs seriously enough, you guys. I should do a better job at that. It is DTs. Do we have energy for a scan? No. Energy for a scan? No. Engineering bay? No. Oh, this is bad. This is really bad for a minute. Fantasy has no idea. Okay, the Spider Mines are detectors for themselves, and they will kill the DTs. Like this. Oh my gosh, one of the DTs goes down, and there's more Spider Mines here. This is why you have Spider Mines, not just because they're great against everything the Protoss has. Okay, took a hit, but still alive. Still going to town. The Dragoons are jumping on in here. 5 kills on this Dark Templar. This is brilliant out of Fantasy. I like it a lot. Detection is... There you go. There's your scanner sweep. And the DT dies after getting 6 or 7 kills. Not bad. It's only 37 SCVs for the Terran after losing those workers, and it's 44 probes for Fantasy here. Kind of like it. DT's coming in another wave as he's really not committing. There you go. He's got another scan available. He's going to be saving up scans for defense more often than not here for the rest of the game, I would assume. I mean, I don't know if there's any more DTs on the way. These look like the last 2 for a while, but it's really messing up Pin right now, and I like it. I like the DT shenanigans here. He's just waiting for SCVs to come back. There's no reason to go up this ramp. There's a Spider Mine there. There's a tank ready. There's a turret now coming up here as Pin is taking detection seriously. Drop coming around the bottom side with a tank and 2 Vultures. So they want to maybe depower these buildings. Nah, nothing's being researched. It doesn't matter. But yeah, setting up high ground on this 3rd base that Fantasy has managed to take here and going after the probes is genius. The Vultures get into the mineral line. They throw down some Spider Mines into the mix. This is pretty good. I mean, this DT has basically denied all mining at the natural base of Pin for some time. Tank ends up getting 3 kills. Maybe gets... Nope, 3 kills before he goes down. This Vulture gets wiped out as well. The DT... Yes, Tank got him. Tank got him. Nope. What got credit for killing that DT? Did he escape? No, he's dead. He's totally dead. But he denied mining on the natural for some time for Pin. So Pin's in trouble. I'm just going to say it right now. Pin is in trouble. Arbiter Tribunal on the way here from Fantasy. Another drop screaming in from the top side right now. Going to try to land in the natural base. And you know what? That's not a bad place to be. There is a cannon coming up, which is going to help for base defense for sure. But it's going to be done in time. I mean, it's nice to see Fantasy making static defense. We don't see it a lot, honestly, in these pro games. He's taking another base. He's really trying to get ahead here. Really trying it. 1 Vulture dies. Another Vulture dies. Dragoon pressure is fantastic right now. Oh, the cannon's not done. And I don't know how to, I mean, it can't hit this tank anyway. So tank's sieging up until it gets chased away by the Dragoons. Spider Mine's trying to get shots off. Cannon finishes. And it's going to help get rid of that Vulture in the meantime. So not bad. We're dealing with attacks on multiple fronts here, but Fantasy is holding on, losing a couple probes here and there, but still sitting at 60 workers and effectively 4 bases. He's on 3 bases now, but this is just a shellacking out of Fantasy. Protoss players, I hope you're enjoying this game so far, because Fantasy's doing a fantastic job of keeping pressure on the Terran, and then holding the counterattacks the Terran player is throwing at him. Obviously, the Terran player is going for a ton of mech, as we see a million factories in production or already done here. Working on Vultures, working on a +1 attack, not going for the crazy tank count quite yet, but Vultures for Spider Mines, for harassment, for map control to some extent. Working on an Arbiter, and Stasis being researched. I don't see Stasis being researched yet. But yeah, that 4th base comes in from Fantasy, and we're in trouble. We're in a lot of trouble here if we're Pin. Pin's got a 3rd base he's constructing on site at the minerals only place outside of his main, but that's not enough. It is not enough to be on 3 bases versus a now 4 basing Protoss. He's going to be up in supply majorly. He already is. 104 to 83 total supply. Your Spider Mine field is kind of embarrassing right now and a little bit abysmal. Vulture's coming down to this 4th base, but it's not saturated at all, which I find surprising. Why would he take it and not saturated at all for the first 2 minutes of his existence? I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. Maybe he realized he'd oversaturated or overextended and he doesn't have enough to defend all of his bases. I mean, there are tanks here now, and these 3 Vultures could handle, or the 3 Dragoons could handle the Vultures, but not 4 tanks in siege mode. And this base is going to go down. Wow, Fantasy overextending and getting punished for it here. I feel like he kind of knew. He's got a big army advantage right now. He's going to sack the base entirely. No saving it. No way, no how. He's going to expand to the right side instead at this 3 o'clock position, which again is terrible to defend against tanks because this high ground position is so hard to dislodge tanks from inside the base. You have to come from the outside, and it's hugely annoying. Anyway, Zealots are in that shuttle. Stasis is now on the way from Fantasy. He knows the keys to beating Terran, and he's getting there as fast as he can. Another drop attempt. Pin doing some work. Was that a... Okay, that was a Pylon. Pylon up at the 12 o'clock. That does get shut down by Pin's forces. These are just 4 tanks in the 2 dropships. I think they're going to try to take down this Nexus all by themselves without any Vulture support at all. Vultures darting on in, trying to take down probes, but the wall is pretty good here. I like the Sim City set up here by Fantasy at the 3rd base. A couple probes go down, but it could have been a lot worse. Trying to march up and take down Spider Mines with detection. Okay, got that one. I think that one didn't do any damage, I don't believe. Oh, yes. Vulture setting up Spider Mines outside this front door, and then the tanks drop in range of the cannons, which you don't want to do, but maybe the cannon's dead because 4 tanks just go shoom as they do. That's the sound they make when they fire, is shoom. So the delay is real. The Vultures are trying to body block as well as they can, throw down Spider Mines as well as they can, trying to get this Nexus as fast as they can. And they decide, no, let's go ahead and unsiege and get out of here. It's better that we keep the tanks alive so the tank count is higher later on than that we actually kill this Nexus. But good job getting the 2 cannons. The Spider Mines killed a few Dragoons there because they're so desperate to get inside this base and save it. I'm liking what Pin is doing. Again, I don't know who this is, but EMP's on the way from Pin. He's getting Charon boosters for Goliaths because I guess for the Arbiters at this stage, there's really no sign of going for carriers here from Fantasy today. But I can see why a lot of Protoss players like to go for carriers. It seems like it's a little bit more fair if you don't have to deal with the tanks of the Terran, you know what I mean? Meanwhile, the 3 o'clock base is in trouble again as the tanks show up. 2 of them siege up. The other 2 stay unsieged. That is sieged up in range of a cannon, which is just a bit of a positional mistake there. So yeah, these 2 tanks die, unfortunately for them. Well, a couple do manage to escape there in their own personal dropship. It's 184 to 120 supply. Fantasy's macro has not been suffering a bit in this game. Not even the smallest, tiniest of bits at all. Still, he's on 4 bases. Pin here's on 3. Doesn't have that 3rd Vespene Geyser yet, unfortunately. Spider-Mine's getting some hits here, but this is a pretty intimidating Protoss army. They got +1 attack. The tanks and the Vultures and the Goliaths are on +2, though, which gives them the upgrade advantage, which is massive. And coming on in here, trying to jump onto the top of the tank, trying to mess with the 3rd base as well as they can. Keep that tank count whittled down as much as they can here. Another tank dies, and every tank that dies is a victory for Fantasy right now. I like what we're seeing. He's just sacrificing Dragoons for this to make sure the tank count doesn't get as high as it possibly could be. This is what all of the good Protoss players do, you guys. A lot of these Dragoons died, but the tank count is lower. Oh, that Arbiter actually got it. Arbiter DPS is bad, man. But did you know that a Devourer versus an Arbiter the Arbiter wins that fight in a straight-up one-on-one battle, that's how low the DPS of a Devourer is. How crazy is that? That was actually tested out on Dead Infested's YouTube channel. So if you want to check that out, he's been doing a bit of a series on who would win, kind of one-on-one unit fights of units you hadn't thought about. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. You can just throw him a subscribe and see his stuff. And it's fun. It's fun. It's inventive. He does stuff like Mass Dark Archons, and it's just really weird things that other channels I don't think are necessarily doing these days. Anyway, Vultures firing on in. Cannon can defend pretty well. Again, trying to take the 6 o'clock base is Fantasy, but again, that's not going very well for him at all. I mean, Pin, he's taken some damage. He's done a bunch of damage here. He's still down about 20 supply, but that's not as bad as it was a couple of minutes ago. Pin looking all right. He's looking okay. I don't know how else to express this to you. He is not dead yet. Vulture damage versus not shields is terrible. They're great at taking shields off of buildings and units because they do that full damage to shields, but against actual HP, they're bad. Which is why you can see a bunch of Vultures jump on top of Dragoons, wipe their shields out really fast, and it looks like the Dragoons are going to die, but then it takes forever to actually kill the Dragoons. That's your reason for it. The 3 o'clock base is going to die. I mean, Pin, he hasn't played a flawless game, but that is another Nexus down here, killed by the Terran player. And Vultures, especially with tank support, eventually will take down Dragoons, especially if they outnumber them, like 6-1, as they did in that situation. So the 12 o'clock is going to die. And I mean, for all the expanding that Fantasy has done here today, he's absolutely going to be a 3-basing Protoss at 16 minutes. Why would you bring probes in here? Oh no, are these probes going to get out? Well, one dies anyway. Wow, and the rest of them get out. Cheeky, cheeky play there from Fantasy. So where is he building an Nexus now? Oh, right here. So he just replanted at the 6 o'clock. And the 12 o'clock is officially up and running for Pin right now. So, hey, this is going pretty well for the Terran player. Not as well as it used to for Fantasy, but Fantasy's still in this. He's actually down in supply. What a reversal from Pin there. He was down 20 supply. He was down 30, 40 supply earlier in this game. He's now up 15, 20 supply total. He's looking good. +2 attack is done for the gateway units, and +2 is done here for the mech as well. So we're pretty much sitting on even upgrades, but +3 is finishing up now for Pin. And no sign of +3 for the Protoss at all, actually, even in construction here. In construction? In production. That would be the word I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah, so pretty good aggression. I gotta say, I feel like Pin's done a fantastic job being everywhere. Obviously, wiping out bases, that's been something he's been able to do consistently here today. And he's in a pretty good spot. Sure, he lost a ton of tanks on that attack onto his 3rd base, but he still has 10 of them here. And he is producing 3 at a time. So, I mean, it's going to be +3 tanks en masse versus a Gateway Protoss army. And we know how that works. We know how rarely it is that a Protoss player can win against that particular composition of all of the tanks with +3 attack. Zerg has a hard time with it too. So Zerg and Protoss, brothers in arms in this situation. They can definitely relate to each other's struggles. Maybe they can find common ground. So a bit of a stasis play. Actually, a stasis play on the shuttle here. You notice how it turned around after it was stasis? That was interesting. Either way, Pin just absolutely overwhelming these Dragoons. They are cloaked, unfortunately, but there's your scan. This southern base is going to die again. All these probes are going to be killed. There's a slight probe lead for the Protoss right now, but that's not going to last very long at all. Are they going for the Nexus? Why are you going for the Nexus? Fool's errand. Kill the probes. Kill the probes. All right, now Pin has an advantage here. As about 6 or 7 probes die. There's probably an 8th probe just killed there. And another one down too. This Vulture's got 4 kills and a hit point. And a prayer. Again, Fantasy has just been too much on the defensive today. He had that really nice attack up into the 3rd base, and the Zealot, or not the Zealot, the Dragoon and Dark Templar pressure early was really nicely done. But since then, I don't know. I feel like it's been Pin's game. It's even now. 159 to 161 total supply, yes. Observer's getting killed. Nice EMP and then a stasis in return. Stasis is casted about a second before the EMP hits. Great timing for Fantasy there. once again, these Vultures with +3 attack are not afraid to stand toe-to-toe with these +2 attack Dragoons. And they've been correct in that assessment pretty much throughout this game. This Science Vessel is going to die. Again, timing exactly how long stasis is going to last in a game when your heart rate is high and things are going fast. Hard to do. Let's see if the Science Vessel can get away before it dies here. It's being left alone, and it's going to wear off soon. Whoom, whoom, whoom. It's really weird how it's hanging halfway out of its stasis, isn't it? Sometimes the spell animations in this game are a little bit wonky. All the timing for fantasy, though. Stupid good. And the Science Vessel doesn't even try to run. It knows, but guess who's here? The big Terran army. Na 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 na. Here we go. Here comes the March of the Tanks and the Goliaths and the Vultures. It's 199 to 190. I mean, it's an even maxed out supply here right now, but that favors the Terran player. His tanks are way more cost efficient than these gateway units are. He needs godlike stasis plays. I hear what you guys are saying about Corsairs and Disruption Web. I get it. These players do not get it because it just costs too much in the Corsairs, costs too much in the upgrade. The Corsairs don't have much utility outside of Disruption Web, and it just means fewer ground forces. We get a recall, though, up here. Okay, so here's what the recall is. Oh, and a bit of Storm. I like that. I like that we have a bit of Storm here in the form of a couple High Templar. Holding on to that ramp. Attacking on both sides here, and then recognizing he's severely overwhelmed. Let's try to kill as many of these SCVs as we can. I almost feel like the Storm would have been better served on the SCVs. Hey, there we go. There's one. Several SCVs down. This High Templar ends up with 10 kills before he gets summarily executed by the Terran Dominion there for crimes against the Dominion. Still, 172 to 161 in favor of Fantasy. He has managed to establish 6 o'clock. The 3 o'clock is good, too. A top right-hand base has been established for Pin, which is really good. Arbiter thinks about a recall. Can't quite pull it off. Just too many Goliaths with a +3 attack and the Carillon booster upgrade here. Pin is trying to expand over to the 9 o'clock base. This is a tight game. This is close. I do worry sometimes the games that I click on to cast are just going to be blowouts one way or the other, but not usually. StarCraft is a pretty good game. And usually if a replay is included in a replay pack, as a lot of them have been, that's where I get them from, they're kind of already, they've been vetted already, right? And it means they're good on some level. Arbiter comes in, has no armor upgrades at all, but doesn't worry about a single missile turret. And there's the recall at the 12 o'clock again, and out of position entirely here is Pin. Spider-Mine's getting cleared out by the Zealot's own bodies. Good SCV pull, pretty much getting out of there in time before he lost his entire SCV count. But the command center does explode under Dragoon fire just barely, and once again the Protoss army is sandwiched in and destroyed by the encroaching Terran forces. Meanwhile, the 9 o'clock base here for Pin gets murdered. That Arbiter tries kind of to fly away, but flies into danger just long enough for it to die. That's a canceled base. 169 to 166 supply. Both players have taken serious hits to their overall supply and their economies, but Pin's economy is only at 45 SCVs. It is not a healthy place right now. Yes, this top right-hand base is alive. Does Alone know about this? Again, I wish I could click on this and show you what Alone knows about as far as buildings are concerned, but that's not how it works. Oh, no, he was up here. He was up here with Dragoons earlier. That's why the command center's on fire. So he knows it's there. He just doesn't have a very easy avenue to go murder it. And this might be the hammer, ladies and gentlemen. This is so many tanks, you guys. This is like all of the tanks. I mean, sure, stasis is up on a couple of these units. Good stasis on a bunch of those. Good Storm coming up as well. Explosions, fireworks all over the place right now. But it is... Pin has the advantage overall. The Dragoons are dead, it feels like. He is producing 8 Zealots and 2 Dragoons at a time, recognizing it's a largely tank force. The Zealots are a better answer here. But again, the 3 o'clock position is under fire. And oh, Fantasy taps out. Too many tanks, and Pin is your winner here in 24 minutes. In 27 seconds. Good grief. What a win. What a win from the unknown Pin here. God, accidental wordplay. My best wordplay is the accidental kind. Hit that like button if you enjoyed that game. That was great. I think Fantasy was too passive. I just do. Yes, he had a couple nice recalls up here at the north. Yes, he did attack the third one time. Yes, he had some Dragoon harassment in the top right. But too many times these bases died for Fantasy. And yes, this is how you have to play versus Terran, is expand a bunch because they're going to be more cost efficient than you are. It's the Zerg style for Protoss. But he wasn't able to keep them alive. He wasn't able to hold against just a little bit of tank pressure. Penn was able to do little brilliant tank pressures with 2 tanks and 4 tanks and a couple vultures and having an upgrade advantage and killing nexuses over and over again and killing probes and forcing them to be replaced and being up on the upgrades at the end of the game was massive as well. And then just once there are this many tanks and you don't have carriers, it's a bad time. It's just not going to happen for you as Protoss all that often. I said that in the early stages of the game and it turned out to be true. Sure, you can have stasis. This was a lot of stasis, but there were just too many +3 tanks remaining. Too many. +3 with +1 armor. Just disgustingly strong, and at the end of the day, the Terran player gets the win. And there are things that Fantasy could have done to win that game, and he didn't, and that's what it is. So, end of the day here, I mean, Pin was down for a lot in that game. Fought hard to make the comeback, and then he did. 178,000 points for Pin, 165 for Fantasy. Both players killed about the same number of units. But Pin produced about 150 more than the Protoss, and that's your math. Both players losing a ton of buildings, which is always good to see. And then Fantasy out-gas mining, out-mineral mining, and out-spending the Terran quite effectively, but it doesn't matter because of the cost efficiency of the Terran units. So fantastic job there. Beautiful. Honestly, beautiful win from Pin. I want to know who this guy is. He's just too good. You don't beat Fantasy in a 25-minute PvT and just be an unknown, right? Who is it? Someone must let me know. All right, but until then, that's going to be it from me. So this has been Falcon Paladin coming at ya with yet another edition of StarCraft Brood War Remastered. Go ahead, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe if you like what you saw and what you heard today. You can also catch me on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, and Twitch, all at /Falcon Paladin. And until next time, as always, thank you so much for watching, and you take care of yourself.